Welcome to Season 2 of MMU. I'm Ed Bellina, and my partner.
Hello, guys. I'm Alvaro Cuba here. And as Ed said, welcome to Season 2. If you recall, just connecting, and when we finished Season 1 last year, we were doing some predictions for 2025 about what would be the key topics for manufacturing for the year. And we came up with four: productivity, customer, and cost. The second was AI and the connectivity and the data. The third, sustainability. And the fourth was Industry 5.0 in support of Industry 4.0, more focus on people. And what we have seen in the last couple months, starting the year, is two additional topics important. One is food safety for the recent outbreaks that we saw, and the other is localization. Started with pandemics, but then because of the tariffs, now it's even more about it. So we will be tracking those through the year and discussing about them. If you have preferences, thoughts, please let us know. And at the end, what is important is what is important for you, and we'll go for it. Ed.
So, just for the record, 8 weeks in, our crystal ball predictions have been spot on and 100% on target. Well, maybe not so much. We might have been a little off the mark.
98.
98.7. But one thing that I think is just, in my mind, blown up even more is this whole concept of AI. I mean, you can't turn the news on without hearing, hey, we're going to make a $500 billion investment in AI. Hey, the new ChatGPT's out. I am just putting my toes in this water, but it is really interesting. And I think we're going to be surprised at the end of the year how much AI has, kind of jumped in to help us. So anyway, we'll keep track of our predictions. I'm sure there'll be some sort of a prize at the end to see how far we erred or hit the mark. I will wear.
I hope so.
Yes. I may wear something like Dr. What was the name of that Johnny Carson show? The guy that was the fortune teller, Dr. something or other, when we do our review at the end of the year. Anyway, welcome to Manufacturing Beat Up for a podcast. Season 2. We made it through the first one. So we're excited to bring you more content this year. This is the show where we kick back. We talk about our downtime. We get real about efficiency in our shop floor interactions. And today we have something really, really special. Great. So I am thrilled to introduce our first guest for the year to MMU, and they are Ellen Feldman Ornato and Jenny Drescher. They are co-hosts of a podcast called Manufacturing Shakeup. Manufacturing Meetup, Manufacturing Shakeup. We thought there was a little synergy in there. And then we have spent the last 30 minutes with these two wonderful women, and one thing we agree upon is our producers have their hands full trying to corral the four of us. So anyway, with that, I'm going to pass it on to them with the first question that we have for you. And that is, tell us a little bit about yourselves, right? Tell us about Manufacturing Shakeup. How did you get started? How was this thing brought about?
I'll start, I guess.
Go ahead.
So Manufacturing Shakeup is about a year old. We're finishing up the last 10 episodes of our first year. And we recorded 52 episodes of about a half an hour in length that are slowly being released on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And we also have a website dedicated to Manufacturing Shakeup. The podcast is an outgrowth of an initiative by the Office of Manufacturing here in the state of Connecticut. We actually have a designated Office of Manufacturing and a chief manufacturing officer, and they spun up something called Elevate Her, which was an initiative to rise up awareness and connection between women who were working in manufacturing across the state of Connecticut. right? It was part of a recognition that Connecticut has a labor shortage. And one of the ways to fill that gap was to get more women interested in, involved in, and networking about manufacturing in Connecticut. So Jenny, you want to take it?
Well, and we got tapped to host it because we, like, in our side hustle, our other day job, our other day job as puppeteers.
Whoa. Alvaro, we are slacking on the puppets. And by
Yes.
the way, here, 52 episodes. It makes me feel at 17 we're slackers.
Yes,
So,
a lot to learn
puppets.
from Jenny and Ellen.
That's
A lot to
right.
learn.
You should have puppets on your podcast. So this is why we got tapped to do the podcast. In truth, it wasn't the puppets, although every podcast should have puppets, in my opinion. It was because in our side hustle, which is actually our main job, is we run a company called the Boulder Company. And at the Boulder Company, we do learning consulting for manufacturers. And we do a lot of speaking and a lot of supporting manufacturers, like people on the shop floor. I love your opening where you talk about let's get real about shop floor interactions and the stories I could tell you from my days on the floor. But
Go ahead, Jenny.
let's do it. It got birthed because we work in that same space that you describe, so we work with communication and collaboration. And honestly, one of the hottest things that we get tapped for is adaptability. So that's our day job. And so that's why the Connecticut manufacturing folks said, hey, let's give a mouthpiece to what's happening in the manufacturing scene in Connecticut, because we dig it. I mean, we love it. And I do a good job, for the record. I do a good job containing all of my swearing. I don't know if you all do. Those were the lifelong habits that I picked up working in distribution for years. When you drive a forklift, it just becomes the norm. So
so far you are doing great. So
it's an adjective.
I'm working really hard right now.
So with the podcast, what we've done is we've interviewed everything from the CEOs of major corporations all the way, not down to, and including all the way down the ladder to 18 and 19-year-olds who are in apprenticeships, who came out of high school, went directly to their tech high schools, and then got placed in apprenticeships and are now working their way up onto the shop floor. So, really looking at perspectives from on high, as well as from starting level, and then people in the middle, as well as on the office side, like really highlighting for folks that there are so many opportunities in manufacturing that have nothing to do with operating machines and production, and have everything to do with marketing and public relations and human resources and accounting and supply chain, right? So there's a fascinating array of careers that are available in manufacturing. And we need to just break through the belief system that it's still dark, dirty, and dangerous.
Right?
Could
not agree more.
Yes. Well, first, congratulations, ladies. I seen a few episodes and really great, fun. And the topic, I think, is very, very important. In my experience in Latin America or Asia or in the US, every time there is women representation and there is support, magic happens. And the contributions are great and in all areas. So I really applaud the work that you are doing, and not only yourself in the podcast, but as you said, bringing people from all areas to work or to reflect and to commit on that. Related question. All times, very men-dominated field, manufacturing. In last year, we saw latest statistics of the Bureau of Labor, 30% representation in women, which is a big jump. So curious, in what you have been working on this, what are the things that are happening? What are the changes that are taking place there to take this representation from barely 0 or close to 0 to 30%?
I would actually challenge the idea that there weren't many women working in manufacturing before, and here's why. If you look at the Rosie the Riveter model,
I was just going to say that.
So one of our favorite associations, big shout out to Women in Manufacturing, which is an international association largely built in North America. And they are working hard to have manufacturing be the best possible career track for women who are saying, I could work with robots. I'm a hell yeah to that. They had a great panel at their summit in 2023, I think it was, about what had happened with, like, where did Rosie come from? And what does Rosie have to teach us? And so during the war, when there was the women going in, calling, following the call to build the planes and all of that, a lot of that actually stuck. So I think although we think of manufacturing as this is just a really male space, and I'm not saying it's not, because historically the numbers definitely do reflect that, to your point, Alvaro. But I think that part of busting through the changes that we're all trying to make in this space involves us challenging our assumptions in general about what does manufacturing look like for anybody. Mm-hmm. So if we bust that up a little and we say, to your point, women have always, like, when women show up, stuff gets done. Just saying.
It's true.
So
I witnessed that.
Yeah,
firsthand.
Exactly. But I think part of what you're seeing, where that number may be coming from, is there are a couple different sources. One, women being fast-tracked recently in the last decade into STEM careers. So right. That is definitely making a very big difference. I mean, right here in Connecticut, we have, for example, programs at the high school levels and the technical school levels.
And junior high, too. They're starting to introduce robotics and robotics teams in the junior high schools. So, yeah.
It's interesting you bring that up. I have my cousin's eldest daughter has decided to go into essentially the VOTEC to study to be an HVAC contractor. Mm-hmm. Now, her dad happens to be a welder for the ironworkers. He's the guy you see on the skyscrapers, welding. So it's kind of, he from the beginning kind of made it open, right, for his children. He's got two daughters and a son to kind of pick their own field. But he showed him how to do things. He's very handy. And his daughter's, her dream is, I'm going to be an HVAC contractor, and she's headed in that direction. Mm-hmm. And it's really starting to bust, to your point, those stereotypes. And we chatted briefly before this about what we see especially in the what we traditionally call blue collar, right? The trades, right? Whether it's women getting into welding, women getting into roles that traditionally you think diesel mechanics, right? Some of this, more what used to be really brawny looking stuff, right? So I think it's not only happening, I see a little bit more in the professional world, but I think we have a wave coming in the trades that I think is going to be hugely beneficial and empowering to women.
It's also so generational. Right?
Yes.
We've had huge shifts from a generational standpoint. Yeah. As the World War II generation starts to fully retire, and it leaves behind, in that next step is the Gen X folks and the millennials behind them. The millennials particularly were raised in an environment with parents who told them you can be anything, who were much more egalitarian in their schooling. That was when you really started to see waves of women going into engineering and going into the sciences and going into math and math degrees. So like the evolution of the demographics that are moving through the country are also making it more of a norm for women to be in those places. So the question is just how does leadership start to adapt the environments so they're more accepting for all, I think is just the best way to say it, where it can work for everyone.
And I think now technology even is going to give it an additional boost to what you're saying, no? Because we even talk in one of the episodes about not anymore blue collar and white collar, but the new collar, which is more skill trade. and technology is given that jump to the new generation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we had a couple more questions. Another one that we had for you is, if you were addressing a young woman considering a manufacturing career today, what misconceptions would you try to dispel?
But the one that pops into my head, I'm sure Ellen is thinking of a different one, but the one that pops into my head is you need to be super tough to go into manufacturing. Because what I see in a lot of my friends who work in manufacturing and in our clients from Boulder Company and in our guests is this idea that, sort of what you're talking about with Industry 5.0, that people are realizing, oh, wait a minute, the business model is kind of changing. The way that we're doing things is changing, and you don't have to go into manufacturing expecting it to be fisticuffs all the time and saying, I have to be tough and thick-skinned and all of this. And it's not that we don't need those basic skills in any line of work, but we've noticed some really big differences happening in that headspace. And I think it's a much more generally inviting space, and honestly, a lot more professionalized than it used to be. It used to be a non-professional space. It was a space where, you absolutely had to wear your armor into work every day. And it's not that there aren't plenty of challenges out there in the field still where, that happens. But that's what I would challenge any young woman to rethink. Maybe I don't have to do that.
The other thing that is definitely a thing right now is that it's an employee's market. And that they can be selective.
Yes.
We interviewed somebody on the podcast just this week who said she had 4 interviews coming out of college. She was in a program at Quinnipiac University. And she said she went to the first one and it was kind of like dingy and the machinery was old. Then she went to the next one and it was bright and well lit and clean. And the people were kind and people were smiling. And then she went to 2 more and they were more like the first one. So she just gravitated naturally towards the environment that felt more like she could find her place there. So it's less about counseling the women on how to be tough and more about just be selective. There are more opportunities than it might seem like. So you don't have to put up with behaviors either, because some of those places are still pretty rough and tumble. You don't have to put up with a place or an environment. This is men or women that doesn't work for you on an emotional level. Right? Because we can't be stressed out every day and do our best work. That's the bottom line. So if people want to create environments where their people do their best work, then they might want to think about how can we create that? And this is not rocket science, treating people well and with respect, right?
No.
Providing some flexibility.
It's good for everybody, right? Having a welcoming environment in the plant just it makes a world of difference. And if you think about where technology has taken us, right? A lot of the tasks that used to require physical strength, right? Think about the mechanic, because the machinery was not properly maintained, is wading into 6 inches of grease and heavy pieces of metal and all that. I mean, I'm not saying that a woman can't pick up, the same amount of weight, but it has been geared towards men. A lot of that's gone away, and a lot of our more physical activities are not going to be undertaken by robots. I think about
cobots,
that happens in warehouses where people pick cases and put them on a pallet, right? That's really hard physical work. And I've had some amazing female loaders, but by and large, 90% of them are men. So there's an area where in the future that will be done by robots. So the physical part of it starts becoming less and less of a barrier and more about old news.
Yes.
We're not the dirty, dingy, sweatshops of the 1900s that you see in the old movies, folks. These places are brightly lit. You're working with technology. You're working with really bright people, and it's an opportunity for you to really grow your career in a fantastic way. Alvaro.
Yeah, and I think it benefits everyone. No, not only the people in the lines, but maintenance supervisors, the plant manager, the entire company. And I think, Ellen, you said it. When you feel comfortable and you feel safe, no, which is the basic, then you start thinking on innovation and quality and giving your best and connecting with other people and sharing ideas. So I think we are moving, which is great. We are moving into that kind of environment in manufacturing. So.
Well, that's another way that science is helping us, actually. Science and technology. If we think about the thing you both just described about, dark, dirty, dangerous. We needed something to lift the heavy. We need to invent something to lift the heavy object so that humans don't have to do it and hurt themselves.
Right.
Technology is also bringing us a better ability to actually work with our own nature as people. So we're total brain science geeks at Boulder Company. That's what Ellen is kind of pointing to, which is this idea that when we are stressed, we lose our ability to think clearly, to make great decisions, to understand our priorities, to manage conflict without going, it's all your fault, or to do all of the things that allow for the innovation, to your point. But science is helping us with that too. Right. Like we can scan the brain. We can actually hook a human brain up and see what it does. Not me personally, although I could try. It just didn't have results. But science is helping us because we understand so much more about how our most fundamental things like emotions have this giant part to play in how we treat each other. And that's critical when you're talking about what we teach a ton of emotional intelligence to engineers because they're so technically outstanding and they raise their hands to us and they go, I need help with the people part.
Don't people well. They're very self-aware that they're not self-aware.
Yeah. It's because they build this amazing expertise in the lane that they're great at. Right. And that, just like any of us do. So they love it when we teach the brain science because they're like, wait, I can learn how to manipulate that machine. That's cool. The machine that is between my two ears, rock on. I can do that.
Alvaro, I wanted to bring up, there was another thing, this whole idea of dark, dirty, and dangerous. So just quickly, the Office of Manufacturing, when they were trying to figure out how to get more young people into manufacturing in Connecticut, they did a study. And it turns out that it wasn't so much the dark, dirty, dangerous thing that they thought it was going to be that was the obstacle. It was the complete absence of awareness that manufacturing was even a thing. So because, Connecticut, I don't know if you've been here, we have a lot of small suburban towns, right? Manufacturing happens in buildings behind the walls. It's not like kids have any exposure at all to this entire sector of the economy unless it's intentional. Right. So now that the high schools are having more active interaction with manufacturers in their areas, now that there are commercials and there are radio programs that are talking about these careers, they're using our podcast actually at the technical school level and in our regional college system to help people get a sense of like, these are all the different careers you can have. These are the skills you need to develop, and to have people sort of overcome their lack of awareness and work with parents in high schools as well. So that parents are advising their kids instead of saying, go work at Target, is why don't you get a summer job at the manufacturing plant up the road that could that could lead to something productive for you, where they might not have even thought of that before. It really is a lot of getting to the parents and having them understand the value.
And frankly, sharing with them that, supply chain manufacturing can be a more lucrative career track than others that you may choose.
Definitely.
And usually has a pretty high return on your educational investment, right? So now that engineering schools are cheap or, science, STEM kind of education, but pretty darn good return compared to some others. So there's a lot of, not to necessarily only appeal to the greed side of it, but you've got to think with the cost of an education these days, you've got to think, realistically about what's my return? What's the return on my investment? I had a family member that reached out to me asking for help to place one of my nieces, and unfortunately, she had a degree. So this is when I was still working for PepsiCo. She had a degree in essentially a very specific social studies field, right? I mean, I took her resume to the VP of HR, said, "Hey, we're friends, right? Can you take a look at this?" And she was like, "Ed, I don't know what to do with this degree." I mean, could bring her in on the sales side at the beginning, kind of start from the bottom. And those are sad discussions to have with people at times, right? But it turned out well. She eventually went on. She got an MBA, and she kind of went into a field that had more potential. But rate of return on your education is important.
Sure, and manufacturing offers us the opportunity to get in as an apprentice to learn a trade, and you're going to want at some point to get an engineering degree. If it creates a natural curiosity. Like,
Right.
I'm working with machines all the time. It would be really great to get an associate's degree in mechanical engineering. And oh, by the way, I might want to even get my bachelor's degree because they see an advancement opportunity for themselves as they grow their skills in education, as opposed to coming out with a 4-year degree and going, well, this is great. What do I do with this? It's very different.
Right.
Yeah. I would say it's an opportunity, period.
Yeah.
No? If you think economically, 1 year of education and then go to work versus 4, if you like it, you are there. Second, manufacturing is an entire world. You have quality and management and engineering and operation. So there is plenty of fields to be there. And something very appealing to the new generation, it has strict hours of work, which allows you to have a second career or do your gig because it's 8 hours done, and then you have your other 8 hours. So, yeah, it's a big opportunity.
I love that. And I love the idea also. Not only does that make sense for the next generation of workers to have room for a gig, but to have room for a life where you get to make a difference, because we know that this is a significant value
for this generation.
For this generation, yeah. I mean,
environment, social justice.
Yeah, like we don't, they're inheriting, sorry, boomers, but,
You're welcome.
Generation is inheriting kind of a hot mess.
Watch out, because you are touching all of us.
Yeah, well, I'm not a boomer. I'm a Gen Xer, but we have our own set of problems. And, we had, with the bad habit we bring to the workplace is suck it up, buttercup, just figure it out. And we're all trying to break ourselves of that nonsense. But one thing that's super cool about, to your point, Alvaro, is that there is this space of being able to say, I can have a life. I don't have to just, I'm just going to open a vein and just give all of my life to work. Because, come on, none of us wants that. But manufacturing can offer a very, very different track for that.
Yeah, work-life balance.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, last question, ladies. Beyond representation, more on women's participation in manufacturing and the benefit that the industry can have it. What are your thoughts? How the industry can better support that, and also how the women participation can help the industry?
So from
both sides of the story.
I think from what the industry can do, the degree to which the industry can be a little bit more flexible with work hours. We've seen some of the model programs out there with the highest level of employee engagement from women who are in the workplace is places where sometimes people are allowed to split a shift, so it allows them to have a little bit more balance. If the job doesn't require them to be on site, that they can work from home, right? There's also, the question of what is the physical space like when they're there? Right. The best organizations have things like nursing pods, and they make sure that there are bathrooms that are within a reasonable distance of the places that women are working, because there are some plants that still only have one women's bathroom in a 3,000 square foot facility, and it takes 20 minutes to get to the bathroom and back, right? So it's just like looking at your physical plant, looking at the ways that you could make it a little bit more welcoming. And this isn't just women, this is women and all of the underrepresented groups in manufacturing right now. We need to solve the labor problem, and AI and automation is only going to take us so far. So the question is, how do you attract more people than the traditional sort of male-centered environment in terms of ideal candidate, so that the environment matches the people you're trying to attract?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think also the other piece that's there is that in terms of solving the labor problem, which is really the essence of the question that you're asking, we spend a ton of time talking with really great leaders about the right moves that they're making inside their company culture. And that's actually, I mean, our other hustle, the Boulder Company, that's a big piece of what we do. But the things we're seeing really hot leaders get right are the flexibility thing that Ellen just pointed to. But they're walking the walk at a much higher level in the places where it's really succeeding. What they're actually bringing to the table is stuff that would at one point have been considered heresy, at things like vulnerability and authenticity, and actually being willing to say, I don't know. I mean, we've all worked in jobs where that was not the norm. And I spent a few days with a strong group of men working in manufacturing at a conference a couple of weeks ago. And that was one of the things that I saw was humility and authenticity and vulnerability. And so I think that smart, savvy, modern leaders, particularly men, who are modeling that for other men, every time a leader does that, they're giving permission, social permission, through what they're modeling. And they're saying, yeah, right? Yep. Like authentic leadership actually is way more effective than blame and telling you that you suck and go do something different. Way better any day of the week.
Right.
Much more productive.
Yeah, much more.
As well, for not only for the company, but for the people.
Yeah. There's an enormous cost associated with turnover. Yes. And, we don't have time to get to it today, but the whole question of, are you managing your performance for the best people in your organization, or are you managing your performance for the lowest performers in the organization? What is your tolerance level for people whose behavior is outside of kind, right? How many people are you going to allow one person to cause to leave before you take action and cut that in the bud and put that person on a performance improvement plan, which demonstrates to the other people that you noticed it, you care about it, and that this person's behavior needs to change or they go. Because leaving those people in your environment, you can put all the pretty window shades on there and paint everything bright and shiny, but that overall culture that Jenny's talking about, that is vulnerable and authentic, creating that requires the other piece of it too, which is looking at what's not working and taking care of that as well.
I think we've all seen examples where one bad plant director winds up essentially pushing everybody around him or her, out of the organization, and you wind up losing some really great people. Right before you take the action that says, "Hey, I'm sorry, your values and the values we have are really not aligned." And I just got done listening to your podcast with the person from Westminster School, and I thought that was really I think it was Hannah
Belmont, yeah.
And it was so interesting to hear how she kind of came into it through her family, but never thought that that's something she wanted to do until she started reporting on it, right? And it sometimes all it takes is that exposure, right, to create that technically inquisitive spark to go, wow, that's kind of cool. And we can think shows like How It's Made, and some of these other ones that have shown up, right? That people all of a sudden get hooked on how these things come together. So anyway,
and puppets,
and puppets.
Yes,
we are
right.
Puppet
Every
and
culture
puppets.
should have puppets.
We're gonna fix that next time.
Well, this has been a great segment, and as you said, Ellen, a lot more to talk about and a lot more topics. So we really hope we can have you back in the podcast again so we can continue doing that. And by the way, Jenny, we need to get to know your 52 puppets.
I know.
So I heard one by show, so I'm really curious about the 51 that we haven't seen.
She's got some really interesting marionettes.
That's it. We need to. I have marionettes in the other room. I feel like we need to do some like puppet podcast training for.
I'm thinking you have inspired me. I'm thinking about getting a dummy and doing a little ventriloquist, right? Because
there you go.
Yeah, you can have that dummy.
Sarah in the background is going, "Oh, geez, here we go."
Yes. Don't give these ideas to these guys because I'll be in trouble.
Tough to keep them under control now. Never mind with and talking.
That's right.
Dummies.
It has been great to have you on the show, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We really enjoy the time, get to know you, and you inspire us in many areas, and also taught us some good practices that Ed and I swear will try to implement.
We're going to give it a shot.
We'll try to give it a shot. But a big thank you, and all the best with your podcast and with Boulder and the great work that you are doing. So keep at it because it's really necessary. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes. So that's all for today, folks. Thank you so much again for joining the Manufacturing Meetup. If you are watching us on YouTube, please give us a like or leave us a comment in iTunes. And more important, give us your comments. Let's make this meet up to grow. And we promise something as hilarious as the puppets. So we'll think about that.
So if you want to keep the conversation going, you can email us at mmu@augury.com. You can find us on the Endpoint, which is a free online community for manufacturing, supply chain pros like us. You can find that at endpoint@augury.com. We'll also have those links in the show notes for this episode. And see you next time. Manufacturing Meetup buddies and Manufacturing Shakeup as well. Take care.
See you guys. Bye.